All right, folks, happy Sunday, and welcome to Unknown Tech's video here on Chat RTX. So I take it you've already read the blog post, and now we're going to get into my configuration and setup. I gave you a foundation of the hardware components, and now I'm going to walk you through how I'm configured. And it really didn't take me this long, or excuse me, take me long at all to set this up. So as you see here, I have my Proxmox server, right? It's called Death Star. And under Death Star, we have two virtual machines. One is called Scion and one is called Chat RTX. So let's talk about what I have in place here. So again, I have Proxmox running on this Epic platform. You saw all the hardware that I had. Let's just break this down for a minute. So the two add-in cards that I have that are PCIe Gen 4 running all those HPE FX 900 Pros. There are 8 drives total. They are pass through to the Scion server, which is basically a TrueNAS scale machine. You can see here all of the PCIe devices that I'm passing through. Those are all the M.2 devices that I have bifurcated on each of those by 16 slots on this Epic platform. And I'm passing each one of those right to the TrueNAS server. So when I log into the TrueNAS machine, Scion here, let's log in. TrueNAS. Okay, so you can see my dashboard here, and I've already done a video, my previous video, I want to say 2 videos back, and I'll link it up here on the TrueNAS and how to enable TrueNAS scale. So basically this is a TrueNAS scale VM. The video I did before was a physical, or building a physical TrueNAS machine. This one is a virtual TrueNAS machine and running on my Proxmox server. And again, I'm passing through all of those NVMe devices. And you can see here, if you go down here, the hyperdrive storage I have, that's my data set, my pool. And I have 2 RAID Z1 4 wide VDEVs that are striked. So basically, 2 RAID Z1, basically a RAID 5, right, of 4 NVMe disks each, and those 2 are striked against each other, right, to give me a total of around 21.51 tebibytes, and that equals about 23.5 terabytes if you do the calculation there. So you can see here the utilization is very small. I just stood this up last night, and I'm just using it right now for this test. It's a fairly robust machine, VM, right, because I have 8 physical cores associated with it up here, right, and 32 gigs of system memory, which I can expand at any point in time. This is one of the reasons why I love running TrueNAS as a virtual machine, because if I run out of storage or run out of compute, I can scale up very, very, very easily. Okay, so this TrueNAS machine contains a share called the Vault, okay, and this Vault is basically mapped to the other machine, right, within my Proxmox server called Chat RTX. Okay, so we're going to go to the console of that real quick and log in, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Don't worry, when we do the demo of Chat RTX, we'll actually RDP to the machine, so it's much bigger. So you can see here that I have my Chat RTX Windows 11 Pro machine running, and I also have a folder, right, a network drive that's mapped to that Vault location. And when I go there, you'll see a folder called Chat RTX, which contains the installer, okay, as well as a media folder, which you don't really have to worry about. This is really where I'm going to be storing my videos and actually doing my video editing from. But under Chat RTX, I have the installer. You don't have to worry about that. It's just temporarily where I put the installer for Chat RTX. I'll show you how to get that in a minute. And then there's a folder called Star Wars. So within Star Wars, I have all this information, basically schematics on all of the Imperial equipment, right? So the shuttle, the Imperial hardware, TIE bombers. You can see the Death Star technical specifications, etc. So I have all this data stored within this folder. Again, you have ATST data, right? So you can see here I have schematics here, etc. So this folder is actually going to be the target for my inferencing, okay? For my chat application running Nvidia Chat with RTX, okay? And we'll be leveraging the 4070 that's actually passed through to this machine. You can see here this device is PCI device, host PCI. This is my RTX 4070 GPU that is passed through to this machine. And as we go back to this machine, I'll show you in the device manager, right, that we have the Nvidia RTX 4070 enabled on this machine. This also has, I want to say 8 cores, yeah, and I think 16 gigs of RAM. I think the minimum is you have to have, and we'll get into the system requirements. Actually, if you read it, the system requirements are you have to have at least, if I go back here, yeah, you have to have Windows 11 or Windows 10, an Nvidia RTX 30 series or 40 series GPU with at least 8 gig of VRAM. I do have an RTX 8000, but I only have the 6 gig version, and I could not force it to work with that because of the VRAM requirement to load the model into VRAM, right? You need 16 gigs of RAM on the actual machine itself. Windows 11, I thought it was Windows 10 too, so I made a mistake there, but it's Windows 11 only. Drivers 535.11 or later, I have the latest, and the file size is 35 gig. I actually created a 200 gig vDisk for this virtual machine, which actually is enough to copy the files, install Windows 11, all the drivers, etc., and then extract it and then install the solution. Okay, so that basically is the system requirements to run this solution. And so, what is Chat, Nvidia Chat with RTX, right? So essentially, what it is it's basically a simple tool, right? It's a demo app that basically lets you personalize a GPT, right? Large language model, connected to your own content, right? So again, my own content will be that Star Wars folder. And so when we do the actual demo, we'll point to that folder, we'll load the model into my GPU's memory, right? The script will run all the necessary tools like Miniconda, etc., right, which runs on Windows to get the actual solution working. And then it'll load the model into the GPU memory, and then it'll launch the actual GPT application, right, where you can actually point to your content. It'll run some inferencing, right, on the content, and then you'll be able to ask it questions, right? Very, very simple, very easy to deploy. So the only thing you need to do is download those drivers for your video card, make sure you meet those requirements, download the package that is Chat RTX, right, and basically install Chat RTX and then run it. Okay, very, very simple. So let's go back to Death Star. Let me see what the IP is here. I don't think bear with me a second. I didn't give this a static IP, so unfortunately I'm going to have to go in here and check it out. It's a little bit different than what I'm used to. So this is 10.113. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log out of here. Let me log out. And we're going to run RDP so we can actually run this. Oh, 10.113. Okay, so now I'm logging into the Windows 11 virtual machine that's running on Proxmox that has the 4070 pass-through. I've already installed the latest drivers. I'm actually using the latest Nvidia beta app. This is a much better app to actually install your drivers. To be honest with you, I can't wait till this becomes GA. But it's has the integrated control panel. There's no separation of control panel, GeForce Experience, all that bloated crap. Right? It's a very, very simple tool to use. I'll just launch it for you here. It actually gives me the latest drivers, right, which I downloaded, and I have 55.61, so I meet that requirement. So let's get rid of this. And I also downloaded and installed Nvidia Chat with RTX, and it's a simple setup that goes through the setup, and actually it asks you what models you want to actually load. And I'm running the Mistral model. I think it's Mistral 2B. We'll talk about that here in a minute. And that model is going to be the model used for this demo. So let's launch Chat with RTX. And this takes a little bit because it's going to run through some of the prerequisite scripting, and then it's going to load the model right into my video memory on the GPU. At the same time, what we'll do is we'll open a command prompt here, and we'll run Nvidia SMI, and within this, right, we'll be able to see what's going on. You can see here I have the RTX 4070 in the left window. I have 12 gigs of RAM. There's 5 gigs of RAM being used right now. Let's see if I do NVIDIA SMI again. Yeah, still 5 gigs of RAM. So this takes a little bit to actually load up. You got to give it a few minutes, and we'll come back to the video as soon as it's done. Okay, so you can see here it actually already loaded. It was actually loaded already. And so it didn't go through the actual load process, but you would see this actually, all the bars go across here to the right window. And then as soon as it's loaded, it actually launches the app. And you won't have this default path in here. You'll have a different path. What you have to do is you have to change the folder path to where the documents are, right? So let's change this right here. I'm going to assume that it's default for you guys, right? I'm going to pick the vault where my Star Wars folder is that contains all of that data. Okay, and now I can see here I'm using the Mistral 7B. I said it 2B before, I was wrong about that, so it's Mistral 7B, and that's the model I'm using. And now I can ask a question about, say, the Death Star, for example. How many guns are on the Death Star? And you can see here you're getting a response, right? And it tells you exactly where it's getting it from. So, you know, there are 57,000 gunners in the Death Star, 5,000 turbo lasers, heavy turbo lasers, etc. And it's getting that data from the Death Star Technical Companion. How big is the Death Star? So it's 120 kilometers in diameter, right? So again, getting it from this PDF, right, that's within this folder. So if I go back here, right, and I just go back to this document, there it is right there, right? It's in this vault. And here is the let's see if it can do anything about the TIE Fighter. Tell me a little about the TIE Fighter. Okay, so again, it's getting the data from that companion PDF, which is good, right? It knows the data. It ran the inferencing model, right? And it's running through, it's doing the inferencing through the GPU, right? Through that, using that Mistral model, and it's providing you output, which is great. So again, very, very simple demo that you can bring in the enterprise and bring it to your leadership and say, we should be looking at, you know, AI because, you know, we might be able to leverage this. So say, for example, what are the use cases for this, right? So say you have a support team, and that support team needs to get information or access to information very, very quickly, and you have a ton of you know, documents, right, and information out there that instead of a support SRE having to go through, or support engineer having to browse through a bunch of KB articles through a normal typical search engine, they can ask a question, you know, or post a customer problem and get a response back based on all of the data that you have collected over the time that you've had support, and getting an answer back to the customer very, very quickly, or front-ending this in a customer support portal as an example, where they don't even have to interact with a support engineer. They can just ask the question and get this data back very, very quickly, right? So that obviously avoids support calls and gives better customer satisfaction. That's just one example of where you could use something like a Chat GPT type application in your environment. Another example could be not just for your customer, but also internal folks, right? So say you have internal developers and they have data in a repository and they need to go search things in the repository, right? Maybe it's notes or something. And you want to have developers access very quickly to information, right? Whether that's using a Chat GPT interface or a Copilot interface where they're actually doing coding and getting real-time access to coding through documentation, right? Things like that that happen within your environment, and you're keeping all this data internal to your organization, right? You're not sharing this with the world. It's your proprietary data, and you're extracting as much value out of this data as you possibly can, from what you already have. So again, great example to use in your enterprise. I hope you enjoyed it. It's very, very simple to deploy. You don't need to have a complex solution like I have, or even a NAS that I'm using as an example. You don't need to have that to use Chat with RTX to demo it. You can put it on a laptop, bring it to a meeting, and say, look what we can do here, and let's get started with our AI journey. Now, what I will tell you, I'm going to end it here, but what I'll tell you in closing is that this is just a demo solution, right? This is just to kind of get your juices flowing, get you thinking about the possibilities of what you could do with AI. On the back end of this, you're still going to need a robust platform, right? You're not going to run this on your desktop for your whole entire support organization, right? You're not going to have it running on, you're not going to have each user running this. You're going to run it in a centralized location on a platform. And you're going to need a platform that is simple to use, simple to operate, that can provide all the services that you require, including GPU acceleration, all the compute capability. More than likely, you'll be running this on a cloud-native platform like a Kubernetes or containerized solution, right? So you want a solution that includes all of those capabilities, as well as all the data services where your data is going to be stored, right? So whether that's an object service or a NAS service, etc. And so because you all know I work at Nutanix, you've read my blogs before, Nutanix has a solution called GPT in a Box, and it contains all of the infrastructure components, right, the foundational pieces to get you started very, very quickly, as well as, right, the foundational frameworks, right, for containerization like Kubeflow or VM-based inferencing like using PyTorch, right? We'll be able to get you set up on all of those things, and all you have to do is bring your own model and your own application stack. Very, very, and your data. Very, very simple. So we can offer you a platform and deliver that platform very, very easily. And if you want more information, obviously just go to Nutanix.com and do a search for AI or GPT in a Box, and you'll see the information there. Or you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and have the great rest of the weekend, and have a very productive week. Thank you.